Okay, here we are, walk 46 on the 15th of August 2018. I think I'll do the route that I did yesterday. Don't want to get too wet, too dirty. It's about 20 to 12. It's very, very slippery underfoot, it feels good. Don't think it would be any different if I was actually wearing shoes, which okay, I always have, just as a backup. Obviously this is kind of what I've been wanting all summer. She knows. It's funny, I was talking to my daughter about this yesterday, and my ex-wife thought I was completely insane, and she's given me a lot of grief about doing all this and so on. Yet the person who is closest to me was actually the coolest. This wasn't really surprising, but fair play to her. She actually said she watched a few of these videos, and she said I sounded pretty relaxed. I suppose, yeah, a lot to be said for that. For all the grief that I took about doing this, the person who's closest to me thinks it's pretty cool, so I think there's a lesson to be learned there, even by myself. However, getting out here every day, or doing it as often as what you can do, although it's pretty repetitive and no doubt a bit boring to watch, it's actually pretty relaxing. Despite the dog walkers and the social anxiety, once you take your shoes off, I mean, I've got headphones in anyway as I speak. Once you take away all that, I mean, I've got pretty ugly feet. My toenails were taken, I'm sure I might have said this at some other video, but my nail beds were taken out as a teenager, just owing to repeated infections. So there's nothing sexy or good looking about a guy's feet, so foot fetish things will be all kicked to the curb. And not that I can't imagine anything like that being attractive to any guy or woman. But the fact of the matter is, you know, I'm an overweight, ugly, middle-aged guy, just doing something that I find relaxing. And I don't know if I'd love to say it's getting in touch with Mother Nature. I don't know. I've long discussed it, and I've long tried to work it out. But the only thing I can say is that it just makes me feel good. When I've walked with other people, although only one of those times has been on video, I do. There was one other time where I was mucking about in a field with someone, and I've mentioned it before, but that person just seemed to have very natural posture when walking barefoot. Something that I'll never achieve. Helicopter up there. And magpie just right in front of me. So how'd it go? One for sorrow, two for joy. Sorry. But yeah, I'll never understand. I never entirely get the hang of meditation, which I suppose I know it requires years of practice. But not just that. I think you get some things that are for some people. beetle just crawling across. Okay, and this where it starts sliding. It's been interesting though, because for all the times I've done this, especially in the summer, and now I'm doing it in the late summer, it's very, very clammy. It must be about 17 degrees. It's pretty hot, it's a bit drizzly. Funnily enough, I never seem to get too badly hit here. Okay, a couple of dog walkers a wee bit behind me. Yep. Okay, despite the social anxieties, I've always found it quite relaxing. Just going to take my waterproof off. It's a waste of time. I suppose it's a waste of time. I mean, around about here you get the cursory hello and so on. And in some of these videos, you'll hear that, but there will be a little actual conversation. But yeah, the reality is I find it relaxing, no matter what. Yeah, just two dog walkers. And I suppose because my headphones are in, and it's obvious that I'm talking away to nobody in particular. Okay, I walked through the woods on the way back yesterday, but really, did I add anything to the walk? Okay, might have to pass by a couple of dog walkers on the way back, but just about completely submerged. I suppose that's part of the fun of it. But I suppose the more you do it, it's true, the more, depends on your mood. I mean, my mood can sometimes the reason why I choose the times to walk is because half the time I don't. Okay, here we go, really sliding. A lot of the time, I don't want to bump into anyone. Yeah, the reason why is it's not because I'm socially inept or anything like that, I just can't be bothered. I mean, the whole point of doing this is that I don't want to see people. I just can't be bothered seeing people. I'd sooner just have a wee bit of me time, relax. A lot down here. Don't want to get too soaked. Might do what I did yesterday. And again, I had a wee bit of rain just a wee while ago, but typical me, I was halfway through watching a film, and you know what it's like, how you, even though I'd taped it on to be shown, even though I'd taped it, but it was actually quite good, and you know how it's almost like putting a good book down when And it's even worse, you know, when you get so far to the end and you can't really you've got to get to the end no matter what happens, whether it's life or death. And you've got to do it. A butterfly. Clouds still coming in from the north, and generally because it's quite exposed it'll definitely be coming in from the west. But yeah, you know how you've always got to get to the end of a film no matter what happens. It doesn't matter how long it is. It could be could be an hour and a half, could be 4 hours. But you have got to get to the end. And it was kind of like that, even though it was only about an hour and 3/4. Otherwise I would have been straight out here in the rain. I think my hypothesis is that nobody likes walking in the rain. A few years ago, well, it's always been my thing, people don't like rain. I'm an exception, I actually don't mind it. I don't like driving rain much. If I'm going to be out here in the winter, I'm going to get hit with a lot of, but I'll be doing it anyway. I think I've set myself targets and I'm too bloody determined to give up on this now. Also, like I've said often enough, there's a mad dash to get to as many walks as what I can fit in between now and October 1st when I first came up with this, and although really I did my first walk on October 4th, October 1st is definitely the big one, partly because it also gives me about 91 days, 92 days to the end of the year. Not every day will be appropriate for walking, not every day I'll be able to walk, you know, for work commitments, whatever. So as of today, the halfway through September, I've got to somehow fit in 54 walks in about 120 days. I walk practically every day anyway. Okay, is it doable to walk along there to the very end? Probably not. No, we're down the bottom of a hill, so now, okay, we're about 12 minutes in. Looking along there, it'd be great if it would be appropriate to walk on it, but now looking over there we can see some pretty heavy looking clouds, obviously very low. To the east, not a lot. It's low lying, but it's not going to be coming here. But if we stand here a second, we'll see the speed at which it's coming. And given the breeze, it's going to be hitting me pretty soon. It's not much of a breeze, but it is a warm day anyway. It's quite clammy. Well, it is clammy. It's also pretty warm. Yeah, I keep going on about my targets. It would be wonderful to get there. It would be, well, I suppose it's up to me really. It's up to my schedule. I'm on annual leave in October and again in December. It's doable. I mean, that's straight off, that's 14 walks. Depending on fitness, I know they all get sick at some point. We all get sick in the winter. So you'll hear me snottering about around here unless I'm dying with a man cold or the flu. If I've got the man cold, then I'll just be loading myself up with diuretics, and if I need to take a pee on the trail, then so be it. Also be quite good for sweating it out. Although, looking back, and I do remember the first walk, which was on a cold October, which was on a cool one, it wasn't too bad. I had a bad winter, but that never came till much later. There will be times where it will be frozen, so there will be a few short walks, no doubt. Again, just always keeping an eye on my time for reasons, and reasons long discussed. But we'll see. See where the dog walkers are. I can't be bothered talking to anyone. I can't be bothered with still going back twice and haven't seen the same people. See where they are and I'll head straight down. You can see this rain just about to kick off in just a second, or as it is. Talking to a friend who watched one of the videos last night who mentioned that I slept last night and yesterday, and to be honest, right, okay. Don't know if you can only just make it out Arthur's Seat out in the distance, but it's shrouded in rain. Yeah, Bronna did mention that I did slip, and yes, I did fall squarely on my boogie. See a lot of rain in the distance. Right, okay, time to put my jacket waterproof on again. I suppose it was quite nice in many respects. You've just seen the different colours within it and the textures, but looks like I'm going to get wet and muddy. Definitely going to get wet. I'll walk a wee bit on this trail here. And I think it was an Irish friend that asked if I'd ever walked in the rain before. Well, this is definitely me walking in the rain. I'll get my hood up because I am going to get absolutely soaked. Just pulling my hood over my baseball cap, allowing me a bit more room. And wiping the lens. Careful not to make the same mistake I made yesterday. And here we go again. I'll just do what I did yesterday, I guess. Put my earphone right back in my ear. And wipe the screen every couple of minutes. As you can see, it's going to be a lot of heavy cloud kicking about. Must be attention. I'll just do what I did, walk halfway along, double back so I don't want to get too soaked. Though I dare say I'll be doing the same thing again tomorrow. But the funny thing is, on a good warm day like this, the stones which would normally dig into your feet don't really feel that bad. Nothing really feels that bad. Okay, it feels slippery, yeah. Okay, feet are a wee bit dirty. They're not too bad. Let's see about going halfway along, doubling back. See if I can do all this in one video. It might be a 40-minute, it might be about 35 minutes, 35-40 minutes. I feel a strong bit of a wind in my back. It's not that bad, to be fair. Which basically means walking into it in a couple of minutes will be pretty grim. Funny, when even just the look of Arthur's Seat a couple of minutes ago was not that bad. Well, it's a lot clearer now, but see that big bit of a cloud up there. I'm definitely getting hit from behind, which means the wind in the west is definitely hitting me. And I'm sure I don't know if you can hear it on the soundtrack, but you can definitely hear me getting hit. One thing that I do find is that I am slipping a lot more. Well, you never come out here to stay dry and dirty. You never come out here to stay clean, do you? So part of the fun of it is feeling the textures beneath your feet. Looking south, no, looking north. You can definitely see quite a lot of rain in the Pentlands, but you can see the small basins of it. Basins, you know what I mean. Kind of get away with walking along to the end. And basically it's going to be showers all day, so festival weather. We're on the 15th today, so I guess I've got tickets for something on the 23rd. Kids will be back at school on Monday. Paid off because, lo and behold, to be honest, it's like Scotland any other time. Every weather in one day. And it looks like the worst of the weather's off east. Round about here never gets it too bad. You expect to get wet, but you don't expect it that bad. There's other towns and villages that get it much worse than we do. I don't know why. I suppose they're maybe that wee bit higher up. It's always a funny thing about Scotland, how there's very few floods because we're all over the place, really. I think it was some comedian, I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been, I can't remember. Anyway, some comedian said the funny thing about Edinburgh is that nothing's ever on one level, everything's all over the place because you're walking about so many hills. And it's the same for the whole country. Hills everywhere. I mean, I lived and worked down south, and I was amazed at how flat it was. I just couldn't believe how flat it was. I mean, it wasn't just the culture. I mean, the culture was, for me, it was completely different. And I suppose it would be different now. And it's no disrespect to the people there. It's absolutely. I really don't mean. I'm not anti-English, despite me being SNP. Bizarrely, the SNP isn't anti-English, and I'm not. The bit that kind of got me was just how flat it was in the culture. Not just even just the way people would respond to your accent. I mean, dare say, okay, I was between Birmingham and London. And okay, yeah, it was a bit Little England, but it was, for me, it was a learning experience. There's good and bad parts to it, good and bad aspects, but then there's good and bad aspects to me, good and bad aspects of this culture. Okay, yeah, the dialect was something. But then so is my dialect, and so is my accent. My accent isn't the easiest to understand at times. And back then, 20 odd years ago, I guess I was a different kid. I suppose when I was a lot younger, obviously, but I was also a lot broader. You live in one place most of your life, you will end up a lot broader, even though my accent is generally very neutral. Even when I did live in that place, I was still very neutral. If you're an outsider, you would definitely say that I was from elsewhere. So be it. As long as I was Protestant and able to go into certain pubs, I was okay, which kind of tells its own story. I remember going into one pub in an Old Firm day, and okay, the pub's now been pulled down. I believe it's a Tesco Express, but such as progress. Wasn't the nicest of pubs anyway, but I was there a few times. But one of the first times I was there, first thing I got asked was, "Are you a Protestant?" And I was thinking, oh, for fuck's sake. But that was akin to, they might as well have asked me, do I want to live or die? And it was that sort of place. It could be that sort of place. It was funny, but I accept both sides. Okay, going to go further than I thought. View that I've done many times, just different times of the day. But yeah, going back to that chain of thought. But, I mean, yeah, going into that pub and thinking, had that one guy ask me if I was a Protestant. If I'd said I don't care, I'm an atheist, if that's anything to go by, I probably would have got a bottle over the head or a good doing. Old Firm days were always good fun, but you had to be careful where you drank, and you had to make sure you were of the right persuasion. I suppose most people of a generation will remember the infamous Rangers Celtic 3-0 game from the back end of '99, and I was in a neutral pub in West Lothian, which wasn't the worst place to be, but wasn't the best either. But you could feel the tension within the pub, and the pub was predominantly Blue Nose. Before obviously all that nonsense to do with Sevco and whatever else. But anyway, I was in this neutral pub, nursing a hangover from the previous night's 15 pints, and you could just feel even just a wee bit of tension. And it's funny to look back on it it's funny to look back on it now, and it's funny to look back on it even just talking in the middle of a field about 25 miles away from there. But we all remember it. It was okay, a few of us, I was there with a few friends, and we were surrounded by a whole bunch of Ranger supporters, which we were, which still are, obviously. One of the guys that I was with is now a season ticket holder at Ibrox, and has actually, I don't have time, I'm too busy working, hanging out with the family, whatever else, or occasionally getting stuck in the middle of a muddy field. But yeah, I suppose you look, we're nursing our hangovers from the previous night's heavy drinking. Rarely ever, nobody ever got lucky in that pub, everybody just got propelled into the drink. So we're there, and you could just feel the tension. And I know it would have been the same all over the Central Belt, and luckily nothing happened in that pub. Just it was predominantly 75 to 80% Rangers in that pub that day. A few Celtic at the back who were told to shut up and under weight of numbers. And I remember the pub had never had any champagne because that's a piff's drink. I know, piss is totally, I know, but you know what I mean. Champagne was seen as being a soft drink unless only used for celebrations. It was that sort of place. So we're busy getting wasted, and obviously all the drama of that day, the guy, Celtic having the majority of the play, but Rangers going one up. Then at half time you had all the chaos surrounding it, the challenges were flying in. And looking back, it was actually a really good game. I'm trying to do it, but without success. And looking back, it was a good game. From a neutral's perspective, and even from my perspective, obviously from my perspective, but some of the challenges were some of the worst I've seen in any football match. And then obviously you had the referee getting coined and blood running down his face, guy falling from the stands at half time. Apparently in Glasgow there was fights everywhere, apparently all over the Central Belt it would have been the same. Uh, and it's rare that I've ever had that sort of intensity to any old firm game. But no, it was, I mean, where I was, it was fine. I never saw anything. And certainly nothing happened to me, but it just speaks volumes about where I grew up. Okay, here we go. Rain on again. Just be a short shower, can't see. Okay, this is a bit where you're looking at which bastard cloud is hitting us. Still slipping away. Funny thing about what I was talking about is, and it's one of the things that I'll stand by, just waving the screen, how many Protestants actually know what a Protestant is anymore? That because, like, fair play to anyone who practices religion, it's not for me. I've always said I'm an atheist, even when I did get, both times I got married and failed, I always said that in both cases they weren't registry offices, but they were registrars. I never really, I take in the history and I get the history of it all, but you're arguing for two sides of the same coin, just one's a wee bit more militant than the other. So I could never really understand what you're arguing about. You're just talking about two factions of Christianity. One more militant than the other. So I never quite understood it. You're arguing for two sides of the same coin. But then it shows you how political Christianity can be. So therefore you wonder where religion actually creeps in. Or if you wonder if it's just a form of politics, that you're supporting one different party. The only thing that's different is that it's like in international politics. Or that could just be my own uneducated opinion. Maybe I need to read a wee bit more into it, or stop myself from getting too bored when I read into it. Or pissed off, take your pick. Okay, quick blast of rain, back to the sun. And here we carry on, so we're more than halfway through. It's going to be 45 minute video. I did try to download a whole lot of stuff from my PC onto my phone. Tried to get it soundtracked. So I downloaded about 60 odd tracks last night, and then apparently I need to download another file onto my phone to let it be okay for YouTube. So I'm like, fuck. Okay, what file do I need to download? So that's a job maybe not for tonight. I'm not going to have time. Probably not even enough time on Thursday, but we'll see. Okay, we'll just go the way we came. And then probably have another shower at the end, and definitely have another shower at the end. Okay, pretty muddy now. Okay. I guess a wee bit muddy, but it's nothing that sure won't cure. Or this. Okay, I mean, one thing again, I keep talking about food tolerance, and on days like this, it feels fine. But there'll be days where, in the colder days, where there's no way I'll want to go through that water, but oh well. Days where it'll be iced over in the coming months. So again, big part of this is trying to get, if I'm aiming for 100, then I think a big part of it's to try and get the walks in before October, where things do change. I do like the idea of coming down with a head torch. That one does appeal to me. Thought of watching the sunlight, the sunrise over the fields, that's not that far away. And there could be a few days where you get these big December skies with shards of light breaking through the darkness, which I guess I'm looking forward to. So there is a lot of stuff to look forward to. So it's another perk of living out with the city, but then you do have the big skies. Getting on to the last part. Okay. A bit muddier now. Okay, again, I'll quick shower. I think the buses are a bit more erratic at this time of year owing to the festival, and they appear when they appear. You kind of just have to jump on one when you get the chance. I can still make out where the horses have been. Well, the horse has been. Sure enough, there's a bus. Every 20 minutes, and I seem to every walk that I've done, I've always seen a bus. I suppose there's quite a gap because I've got about 5 minutes, so there's 5-10 minutes. Can I get a footprint? Just about, not quite. Christ, bus drivers must be sick of seeing me doing this, as much as I'm sick of seeing them. But so be it. They'll be able to tell me by the colour of my baseball cap. I think even though it's really there just to keep the sweat in. One second, we'll take this waterproof off. It's not sweating but excessively. See, waterproofs are fine, this waterproof isn't too bad. Got me up quite a few hills, including Ben Nevis. Might not be the greatest quality, but it's kept me dry. It's done its job on more than one occasion. Good 30 quid that I spent about 8 years ago. Got me up Ben Nevis for the first time I did it, even though there was no rain. Probably should have had it for the second time. Probably might have done a better job than the one I had, because I mean the second time was horrendous. The 2 years about it was awful. But I've spoken about that often enough. Okay, 43 minutes, that's not too bad. I must have walked about a couple of miles, so. Guess I must be the crazy barefoot guy to a lot of them. Can we? Nope. Again. Okay. Feet are pretty muddy as expected. Okay. And okay, 44 minutes. Well, longer walks, but longer videos. funny how you barely even notice even the cold when once you've been walking a while. But I suppose that was like one of the big things about the first time. Well, first few times. Could you still do with a bit more rain? Definitely do with a bit more rain. Or a lot more. Because right now it's pretty warm. Okay, just about to sign off. As ever, always feels good. Always great to get out here. See if we can stop at bang on 47.